for joining us. I have with me Ryan Houston and Daniel Tam, two of my coworkers here at Optigo, and three of us spend a lot of time sitting together poring over Wireshark files in Visual BACnet, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And so I'm really excited to spend some time troubleshooting with them today and show you exactly what we do on a daily basis here at Optigo.
What's next on our list?
Next is the shopping mall.
Okay, so this is Daniel, if you will.
All right. So 58%, I would say it's not that bad, but it's an MSTP site from, you can see from the graph here. It's instead of non-BACnet, it shows MSTP. And what's very interesting here is that between say 350 and 410, there's a spike of MSTP traffic. And we can see that the BACnet traffic is close to zero.
Oh, it's inverse. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, everything seems to be back to normal. So, like, what we hypothesize first is that majority of the problem may lie in this particular chunk. So, some token might get lost, or the server just went down and recovered itself after that point. So what we did was to make sure that the problem is actually between this period of time, we actually trimmed the capture and analyze what's after to make sure that it's all good. So I'm going to bring up the capture that we trimmed. You can see that the health is significantly better, but there are still token disruptions. So if we
what we're saying is we haven't fixed the actual problem yet or know what it is, but we've isolated the better traffic so that we can make sure that anything after the spike is solid and hoping to narrow down what that spike is.
So before we split, we see a very long token round trip time and also a lot of token disruptions. What we are expecting to see in the good one is that it'll be a lot more stable. So not as many token disruptions. But what we see here is there are still token disruptions, and the average token round trip time is still very long.
That's insane. What is that? Almost
that is almost 19 seconds.
Whoa!
So there's something wrong with the token passing. So click into it, and we can actually see how the token is being passed. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort by the destination and then click on the source. So this will show us which sources are passing the token to which destination. So from here we can see that source 0 is always passing to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 3, 0 to 4. So that is not how an MSTP chain usually works. And if we go on further, it seems like source 0 is always passing the token to each of the MSTP masters in the chain. And when we hit 1, we can see that 1 is only passing the token to 0, and 2 is passing the token also to 0, 3 is to 0.
So this isn't daisy chain at all.
Yeah. It seems like the token passing mechanism here is it's not standard. And that would explain the token disruptions. So for token disruptions, we are looking at reply to poll for masters. So in a stable network where there are no new devices, reply to poll for masters should never happen. So say I believe it's at every 50 token passing, the master with the highest number will send out a poll for master to figure out new devices.
To see if he's the highest one.
Mm-hmm. But in this case, we can see that, so this is a reply. So the sender was 0 send out a poll for master, 1 send out a poll for master, 2 send out a poll for master. So basically, almost every device here send out a poll for master. That's because in the token passing, the devices are configured to pass the token to 0, which is a number lower than its own device number. And that's why it thinks that it's the highest, basically the highest device the last device in the chain. But in actual fact, there are other devices which are numbered higher than them, and all these devices responded with a reply to poll from master. And interesting enough, these replies are not actually being registered. So it's sort of getting ignored because we never see that the token get passed from 1 to 2, but still 1 to 0.
So it
even
says
after the reply.
who's the master, it says I'm the master, and it says I don't care, I'm going to pass back to 0 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from here?
So
your device configuration is completely.
So either that. So there could be a couple of things in this file. Do you think they're in a star topology? It's hard to say. It could be that. There could be an extra capacitance on the wire. At this point, if you came back to us and said this is truly wired in a daisy chain fashion on a straight 2-wire network.
So I asked him.
Is he online?
I don't know. Can we hear you?
Hi. Could I write in chat? I think we will be better. Okay.
So is this is a daisy chain MSTP chain?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Could you repeat, please?
Oh, is this network daisy chain? It's 0 to talk to 1, 1 to talk to 2, 2 to talk to 3, like an MSTP chain?
Well, let me try to tell you what is happening. I think you did not introduce what has really happened. The major problem with that network that we found is because that network at these. Well, let me write. I think it will be better. Just a minute.
Sure, I can. Okay. So it's a BACnet network of a shopping mall. It has 59 insiders, BACnet PLCs, and 1 automation server. The main problem is that the network suddenly goes down for no reason and then comes back by itself. It seems like when the capture goes down, there's a lot of malformed packets spamming the network with no necessary reason. And so he captured on the MSTP network. So we've actually cut out of this file the section of going down because we want to just troubleshoot the good part and make sure it's okay, because maybe that section is so troublesome that it's causing it to go crazy. So if we can make that better, then we'll deal with the really bad stuff.
It's interesting. I looked at a file the other day that looked very similar in the round trip token times. The result of that was the integrator had to go to site and using an oscilloscope to look at the shape of the MSTP packets. As we know, they should be a nice, sharp 0 and 1. What this was doing, it was actually a nice shark's tooth coming down. So the 0 and 1 threshold was a little bit questionable. It was creating a lot of misinformation in the packets and causing a lot of this type of data. So our suggestion at this point, and unfortunate as it is, to get a little bit more detail, we're going to need to take a look at what the packets will look like from an oscilloscope point of view. Because if you've truly wired it up in a 2-wire daisy chain nature, then the only next logical step is to start isolating to the hardware and to the potential shape of those waves, just to make sure that they're not giving us something weird. There could be too much capacitance on the wire when you connect too much in there. There could be a lot of issues, but it's definitely pointing us to a hardware problem over potential software.
So why are we thinking that this isn't a wiring problem?
Why we're thinking it is a wiring problem?
Well, we're thinking it's a hardware problem rather than a wiring problem, correct? So a lot of the time we see really messed up MSTP networks that are wiring. This one we think is the actual devices.
The easiest way to that is normally when we see Sorry, Daniel, I'll steal it a little bit. Normally when we see the average round trip token times, we don't see anything in this range, right? We're talking 21 seconds to go around. Normally that's 400 or 500 milliseconds, super fast. And because it's way outside of the range is why it kind of triggers us to that. Okay. It's pretty wild.
And so he's actually tried to do that isolation, and he's isolated, this is a panel of 7 PLCs that he thinks are the problematic ones.
Okay.
So potentially go to those devices and either there's something crazy configuration, or the devices are just need to be replaced.
Yeah, potential. But that's definitely the path you're on. But and at minimum, one of the things that this tool could have helped you with is, and I can't stress this enough as you're building two-wire networks, but get our capture tool, put it on before you put the first device on, right? Because then you would start with your main router, go to your first device, and if you solve this problem right away, then you could stop and try and correct it at that time. As you add on, 20, 30 devices, it gets harder and harder. So that's, in a time-saving perspective on site, that would be our suggested method. Not always possible on site, but if you can, it would be the best way.
So another Ryan just jumped in with the comment saying, or a question saying, should these devices be sending to the next device and not back to 0? So yes, just to clarify, you shouldn't go back to 0 every time. It should go 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. That's the crux of what's wrong here. It's going back to 0 every time. And likely, if you solve that problem, a lot of the other stuff would get solved. But how to figure out exactly why it's doing that would require looking at the physical devices.
Right. So this requires some on-site work.
All right, gotta roll that track.
Thanks for the file, Diego.